All right, so the last place we left off, we were talking about that you're just moving to. You guys moved to North Carolina, so you guys were in Kentucky. Grandfather retired, right? So then what happened? He retired, and how old was he when he retired too?
He wasn't very old. I think he was in his 50s, late 50s.
Was he? Did he do 30 years with GE? Or?
Mm-hmm.
I think it wasn't he early 60s?
I don't know what it was.
I thought he was just 60.
He was
I
60.
thought he was just 60. You know, he was just like right
Yeah,
around
he
that
turned
time.
60.
You guys remember better than I do.
Yeah,
I don't keep a log on any of that stuff. He was 60. I understand.
So So what happened then? So why did you guys move up to North Carolina?
Well, we were in Kentucky for another year after he retired.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric wanted us to come down to North Carolina. And so we mulled it over and we went down and we stayed down there for a little while. I think we stayed down there for 3 months.
North Carolina?
At Terra Farm, yeah. And when we came home, our horses were not. We had left a girl in charge of our horses. She moved into our house. Meantime, she got married, and our horses, they didn't bother with when we came home. Bill said he was going to try to get them up and running during the summer, but he said he couldn't do it, so he had to put them down.
Oh, wow.
He put the mare and the stud down, yeah. I don't know how he did some of the things he did. Anyhow, he couldn't get them back. They were, and he could keep a record of hay and grain, and he knew that they had been missing water and hay and grain.
Yeah. Huh.
So we mulled it over, and we had been down there for 3 months. They wanted us to bring our horses down there and put in with theirs. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what, we took probably 3 horses down with us and put in with theirs. And bought a townhouse that backed up to the farm. So Bill could, they had a go-kart, what do you call it, golf cart.
Just
And
can't.
then he got so he would drive the golf cart back and forth.
All right. So okay. So what happened? So let's go back. So you guys got townhouse, right? And then it backed up to Terra Farm, pretty much.
Yeah.
So Uncle Eric was working at Terra Farm, so he wanted you guys to move up there so you could be closer. Is that
Right. Right. So I'm trying to think. He enjoyed it because he was with horses.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they were his didn't make any difference. He was around horses.
Mm-hmm.
And
So what is that? Is that like the 80s or 90s?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, it was, I think we moved down there in 80s. He retired at 1983. And we went down after that.
I can tell you when it was, because it was you moved down there when Josh was, Leaf had moved you down. When Josh was like, I think,
I was driving the Ford at the time.
yeah, and I think Josh was maybe 2 years old, maybe?
Yeah, so it
So I'd
was
say mid-80s was when you went down there?
about 85.
Around that time was when it happened, because I remember flying with Joshua down when he was little down there. And I met Leaf, because Leaf had moved you down. Don't know exactly when, but kind of, I would say mid-80s. Josh was born in 83. So mid.
Because we were down there in 89 when my school had a
Yep, yeah.
reunion.
Mid-80s sometime.
So all right, so that happened, and then so you guys lived. How long were you guys there for?
How long were you there for, Howard?
10 years, right? At least.
15 years, wasn't it? Didn't you live
We
in
were,
Raleigh?
we were 15 years in Raleigh, yeah, and 10 years in Wilmington. I'm just going blank here. We were 15 years down there.
Yeah.
That's the longest I've ever lived anywhere.
15 years. Huh. So what? So you guys were there 15 years. So what
After She
happened
was married.
when you were married? So what happened when? So why did you guys end up leaving Raleigh then? Did Uncle Eric stop doing horses or what?
Well, he was working for Clay, who was his wife's brother.
So he got out of horses and then.
And then Clay moved to Wilmington and opened up a landscaping
Yeah.
business. And he wanted Eric to come down and work with him. So then they moved down to Wilmington. And then, of course, Eric wanted to build down there too. So we ended up moving to Wilmington. We were there 10 years. And they just moved down the street from us, one house down the street.
In the meantime, Eric had gotten a divorce from Cindy and had met Ruby and got married to Ruby.
Right.
Ruby was, so it was his second wife, whose brother
Yeah, wanted to.
Eric worked for. Okay,
Yeah.
so Eric's thing with horses really ended when Cindy,
And him
when the
did.
divorce, because Cindy had been at Tara Farm for a long time.
25 years at the time.
So when that relationship ended, you know, Eric had, and he did work for some people, but it just never, you know, never worked out the way. And I think the Lord was leading him other places, so when he met Ruby, I think then she was from down in the Wilmington area. So there was nothing up in Raleigh to keep grandmother and grandfather still there, because Eric was now in Wilmington.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, that's kind of what happened, so that's why they followed. They were separate for a while, but that's, you know.
So did you like living in Wilmington?
Oh, absolutely. I liked it better than Raleigh
Yeah,
because the water was right there.
yeah.
And it was good for a while. Then Ruby got strange.
Yeah.
And then Eric died. So, what Bill and I do? We stayed in Wilmington for a while. I loved it in Wilmington. And then grandfather died. He died first, and then Eric died the year after he did. And so then I was there in the house by myself. And I wish I had never sold it because it was a house I could take care of. It was one story. It was on the outside. I can't think. It was like metal on the outside, or
It was.
what? I don't know what it's
It's
called.
not wood.
No, it's not wood. And I went
Vinyl
around.
siding and stuff.
It people would have it power washed,
Yeah.
but I went around with a bucket of water one day and the hose, and I power washed ours by myself, so I could take care of it by myself. And it was new inside, so there wasn't anything to change.
Yeah.
And grandfather had left it so that I had everything going. He put fans in the ceilings, and he did all sorts of stuff that I could take care of it by myself. So So then I was there for 5 years by myself. And that's when I got into some physical problems. And I had a nurse across the street that would take care of me. And then I had a whole church that was taking care of me. But I just felt like that was too much. I needed to be near family, not drawing on neighbors and what have you, because I was well taken care of, but I didn't think it was fair to them. So that's when I came up here. I just gave everything away. I was thinking about my couch the other day. I don't know what happened to my couch.
I don't know.
I had the 2 little couches,
Yeah.
but the big couch, the sleep couch, I don't know what happened to it.
I don't know.
I don't know what happened to the wingback chair. I just gave stuff away.
Yeah.
And then I came up here and stored what I thought I was going to keep. And then I gave it away to a thrift shop. So it's all gone now, except for what's in the basement. And I don't even know what's in the basement.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now.
Yeah. So you've kind of enjoyed. It's been. Sounds like. I mean, everything you told me. It sounds like it's quite an adventure. Your whole life has been pretty interesting.
Yeah, for me it was.
Yeah. At the travel.
I really had a good life. I really had. I had a mother and father that just never doubted me, never always trusted me. I had friends that their families would say, well, if she can do it, then you can do it. In other words, I was the way. I was the way. If her parents will let her do it, then you can do it. So I had 3 little friends, and like I say, there's only one left now. She's in Washington, and we're in contact all the time. And she's turning 90. I said, these numbers I can't get over. I can't get over. Like I got a card from Arizona when we're 88. Hal was Bill's boss when he first went to GE. And like a lot of times, we became friends with those people. And she hit the nail on the head because she didn't know when my birthday is. But it's this coming Saturday, I guess. And we became really close friends. We had a lot of close friends, couples. Every place we went, we got these close friends. And even now today, I could call them and say, I want to come, and they'd say, come. Yeah. So it's been good. But I kicked my heels at a lot of times when we had to make a change.
Yeah.
Grandfather had problems with me
Yeah.
because I didn't want to. Once I made friends, I didn't want to leave. And once we got into a church, I didn't want to leave the church. New Mexico was a real hard place to leave. And Wilmington was a hard place to leave. But when I left home and moved from where I was in Maryland and moved to Pittsfield, that was a real bummer.
I'm sure.
Oh boy, I'd never been away from home. And so my mother said to Bill, take her home as often as you can, and after 3 years, it'll come together. And it did. I drove the car one day and went out shopping, I think, and I drove back in the driveway, and it was 3 years, and I was home.
Huh.
Yeah.
Pretty fun.
And he had a good career, too.
So you've been going to church your whole life, right? Mm-hmm. Did grandfather go to church when you met him?
I don't know that he was in church, but he would quote scripture to me, and I thought, oh boy, he knows his Bible better than I do. And his family, his mother played the organ for the Baptist and the Methodist, so they went to church every week because his mother played the organ. Mm-hmm. It was one of those stories where then they wanted somebody else to play and fill in or something, and she got her back up, and then she wouldn't play at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was different. She was different. When he wanted to take me home, I met him in Labor Day in September, and and then we dated. He just lived across the street. Mm-hmm. And then we dated September, October. November, he asked me to marry him. December, he gave me my ring. But in November, he told his mother he wanted to bring me home for Thanksgiving. She had picked out a girl she wanted for him already. And so she wrote him a letter. So he wanted me, I tell you, times change. She wanted me to, she totally rejected. And she wrote a letter and she said he could bring me home, but she wouldn't speak to me. And you know that I went and she didn't speak to me.
That's crazy.
Nowadays a girl would say, I'm not going, I'm not going. But he told her he was going to marry who he wanted to marry. And she thought I was a floozy from Washington. And when I went home, I had the long hair and the painted fingernails and the makeup on. And of course, they didn't wear any of that. They were farmers. And the rest of them treated me nice. We'd sit around the table. He had, there were 10 of them, nine of them living. That sat, 9 children sat around the table, mother and the father. So there were always 11 of us. And they all treated me nice, except she wouldn't speak to me.
Ever?
Not that weekend, no.
Oh.
So Bill went out hunting, because that's a big thing, over Thanksgiving, to go hunting on their land. And they went out hunting. And she was busy in the kitchen, and she didn't speak to me. And so I sat in the dining room, and then when Bill came back, I said, "Don't ever go off and leave me by myself again." I guess we ate Thanksgiving and came back to where I lived. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, because she would have choices, Leaf was her favorite. And Eric said, before he died, well, Leaf was her favorite. I said, well, don't blame Leaf. Grandmother should never have named her favorite. She should never have done that in front of all those grandchildren. That's a wrong thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
And then afterwards, I was her favorite daughter-in-law. She let everybody know that. Not good. Not good.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're probably looking forward to seeing everybody someday.
Amen.
Yeah.
I am. I really am.
Yeah. What do you think? This is something I always wonder. Like, what do you think of getting older and stuff like that? Like,
it's not fun.
It's not fun.
No, because everything is deteriorating and breaking down. Mm-hmm. And they call it the golden years, but it's the brass years, I call it. It's brass. No, it's not fun, because I said to Bill one time, I don't feel my age, and yet I know there are certain things I can't do. And he said, well, that's because your spirit doesn't age. So I was talking to a woman in a grocery store one day not too long ago, and she said, I know I look old and I know I am old, but I don't feel old. And I said, well, it's because your spirit doesn't get old. So you still feel inside that you're
Young.
young, yeah.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
I think it's like I think my grandfather, like Gramp said, you embrace every stage of your life, kind of, and you see, so it makes sense. You kind of, there's a different, almost like a different chapter every part of your life, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting talking to different everybody I interview. It's kind of different, what everybody says.
Nobody has the same story.
Yeah.
Well, growing up, I remember one spanking. That's all I ever got that I know of. And my father gave that to me because I was across the street playing with one of my 3 little friends. And we lived a busy street in those times. Wasn't busy at all. But we lived on Bunker Hill, so cars could come over the hill. And I must have misunderstood him because I think he must have said to me, don't cross until this car goes by. Mm-hmm. And I ran across in front of the car. And it was coming down the hill, And boy, he was so upset. That's when I got a spanking. But I had to, because I did everything they told me to do.
Yeah.
And my sister was she was more like he was. Mm-hmm. And I was 7 years younger than she was, so I was the baby. I was more like my mother. Mm-hmm. So he and I were really close. And I was close with my mother, too. And I became closer than when he went into the Second World War, and he went away for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. But those were good. He was gone all my high school years. Mm-hmm. But somehow he got a leave, and he was there when they were having a dance at the high school. And I was going to be crowned queen of the high school. So he got there for that. And he said, babe, you want a jitterbug? Now, he taught me how to dance, the waltz and the foxtrot and all that stuff. I said, you jitterbug, Daddy? He said, yeah, jitterbug. He'd probably been to the USO. He already knew how to dance. So to do a jitterbug was nothing for him. Mm-hmm. Would pick that up quick. So we got out on the dance floor there at the school and danced a jitterbug. I was so proud of him. Oh my goodness, I was proud of him. We always held hands, even when I was 17 or 18. Any place we went, we held hands. He would say, baby, you want to go shopping for a while? And yeah, I'd go shopping. We'd hold hands walking down the street. Yeah, quite a man. And I can remember when he came home from the service, I remember him, because I was in the living room, and we were in Cheverly when we moved from Mount Rainier. And I can remember him getting down on his knees in front of my mother. She was sitting in a chair, and him telling her how much he loved her. For a child to see that, I mean, I can't remember what he said to her, but I remember he told her how much he loved her. Yeah. That's my memory of my family.
Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I was born over a bakery. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
And then we moved up just 2 blocks from the bakery. And I was like 2 and 3 years old. We were 4 months old when we moved to the new house. But they put a gate on the porch that I don't know anybody that could get through that gate. I mean, when he built something, he built it. And so Somebody left the gate open, and they called from the bakery. Now I had crossed all these busy streets, and Mr. Klein, the man at the bakery, he used to call me Little Bits. And he called my mother and he says, Little Bits is down here, she wants a sugar cookie. My mother says, Little Bits is down there, she wants a sugar cookie. So she had to hop down there and get me. Somebody left the gate open.
That's hilarious.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And that place, when I went back, it's been probably 3-4 years ago now, because Michelle took me over to Mount Rainier, and we rode around. And it was a big building. The bakery was in the basement. The ovens were in the basement, and it was a big building. And it's now a mission house. When I went back, it was a mission house. There was a man just sitting out on the steps. It was a huge, big place, brick place. And when we lived in it, when I was born, we had an apartment up there. It was living room, dining room, kitchen, bathroom. So I was glad to know it was being used for,
Something good anyway.
because the bakery was long gone.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but nothing. My house, we rode around. Helen, there was another Helen. She said, I wish they'd blow my house up because they had changed it so much. I wish they'd blow it up. And then Wilda lived right across the street. She's the one I got the spanking for. And hers was the same. But there was a lot in between those houses across the street. And there was a woman that raised flowers. And I didn't know it, but every night she'd be out in her garden doing the flowers. And it was probably, I don't know how much, maybe 1/4 of an acre or something like that. And afterwards, Wilda said, well, she sold her flowers to flower shops in Washington. I said, really? I didn't know that. So Wilda and I, all these years later, we still talk. And Wilda say, you know, we lived at the best of times. We really did. The war was going on and all of that, but we didn't know. We as kids didn't really know anything about it. And movies were propaganda movies where our guys were doing the best. You know, our guys had flown 23 missions and they had knocked out whatever they were supposed to knock out. So as kids, and it was Depression time, but we as kids didn't know anything about Depression. Mm-hmm. My father had a steady job. He came back from World War I and went with the post office. And he was there. He retired there when he died. Mm-hmm. And he had been there for years. And Wilda's father had a job, Helen's father had a job. So as kids, we didn't know anything about the Depression. Mm-hmm. Well,
pretty cool.
Yeah. We were safe. We all lived in homes and we were safe. Yeah.
Not bad. All right, Graham, well, thank you. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. There's a lot of fillers I could do through the years, stories, but not anything that's important right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think this is cool because, like, Mackenzie's going to see this someday, you know, and
I want to see it one day.
You're going to see it. I'm going to get it done for you so you can watch it. But, you know, your great grandkids are going to see this and maybe beyond that, so it'd be kind of cool to hear your story, you know?